So lately, I've been getting a bunch of recommended videos of Robert Kiyoshi. So those of you that don't know who Robert Kiyoshi is, he is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a heavily marketed book that made him famous recently. He mostly does real estate, and now he's doing cryptocurrency for financial gains. Well, he claimed he doesn't work for money, but he works just to work. I don't know much about that, but the thing is, the guy is pretty smart, but he's kind of delusional. But
I don't really want to do this interview anymore.
Before I talk about that, subscribe to my channel. I upload 2 to 3 times a week, I think. I'm not too sure actually, but anyways, back to the video. So Robert Kiyoshi, he has a philosophy that he always spreads around or yaps around. He is mostly portrayed in his book that is made popular through good marketing, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the ideology of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is that the poor dad, he goes to work and then he spends his paycheck basically, and if he doesn't have enough money, he needs to borrow money. And where does he borrow money? He borrows from the rich dad that lends him money, and then he uses interest to make the poor dad keep working forever. That's essentially it. I don't know how to put it more simpler terms than that, but simply said, Robert Kiyoshi's philosophy on making money is that you should have people work for you. Now, I want to go into detail as to how bullshit it is. First off, he said that he's never gonna work. He never looks for work. Now, the issue with never working is how you're gonna find capital to acquire debt. Debt comes in many forms. It comes in real estate, like rent, dividends, and hard lending, which is a little more advanced. And just lending money to your friends and and just expect them to pay a little more, I don't know. But the thing is, where do you get the capital to purchase debt? That is the issue. You gotta start from somewhere. And I believe that finding a job is a good place to start to purchase debt. But if you don't have any capital, how are you gonna purchase debt? And Robert Kiyoshi, he says he's never gonna work. He's never working, and he always has a demeaning attitude towards people that are laborers. And also, another thing that's bullshit about him is that his business mostly consists of real estate. Now, this guy is relatively old. He's previous generation. He's a boomer, simply said. And real estate at that time was relatively cheap. You could have a minimum wage job, and you will easily be able to afford to buy your own house. At least get a down payment for it within 3-4 years. Because at that time, housing prices inflation was low, not like today. Currently, our pay has increased by 200%. But housing prices increase by around 1,000% from the 70s. Simply said, we're making 1/5 of what the previous generation is making in order to buy a house at their current pace. So that is pretty dog shit, but Robert Kiyoshi, he was in the game a lot more earlier than most people are in this age, and now he thinks he's hot shit. And and also another thing, maybe, don't work. Another bullshit thing is that, you could not work. You could borrow money, right? You can get loans from banks to purchase a property, and then you can make money off rent. But the issue is, back then, loans were easy. It is really easy to borrow money back then. It all depends on your charisma, or Riz, as young kids call it. And it was just it mostly depends on that. They don't check your credit score or anything. You just lend money out, and then if you make money off of it, good. You could pay the bank back, or don't make money, you just disappear, and the bank can't do anything about it. That was how it is back then. That was how loans work back then. But nowadays, if we were to borrow money, some guy that doesn't work, that wants to buy a piece of property, and he wants to borrow money from a bank, not happening. Simply because, banks are smarter now. They won't lend money to anyone. Some broke motherfucker that has no money, they're not gonna do it because, it's common sense. That is why I thought his philosophy on business or debt is kind of bullshit, is because you cannot do any of the stuff that you did back then now. Now it's a different age, it's a different game, and he is preaching about how buying houses is so easy nowadays. I'll give him credit that he does acknowledge the fact that it is a lot more harder now compared to back then. But when you see him talking to younger people with his dog shit attitude in an interview with a guy on crypto news, it's pretty demeaning, because he just he likes to sniff his own fart, and he thinks, oh no, you had to do it my way, it's easy. Like, no, it's not easy. The capital he gained from amassing all that wealth in the past, like now he can invest in more modern expensive investments like crypto, and he thinks, oh yeah, I could have done this even in this age. But the thing is, he already has a bunch of capital. This guy's already a multi-millionaire by the time in the modern day of 2020, and then he's going around preaching about how easy this is. And that's the issue I have of him. He is just egotistic. He doesn't realize that he doesn't have any understanding of his surroundings. He doesn't understand what's it like to be born in this day and age. And he gives people shit. He laughs at workers about like how they're fools. Like, he say that there's nothing wrong with fools, but nothing wrong with working, but he thinks it's for fools. And that's pretty dog shit to say, because I'm pretty sure these laborers that he call fools are the ones that plumbs his house, builds his cars. But I don't think it's a really nice thing to say. Maybe he's not wrong. Depends on your philosophy on life. I don't think laborers or most laborers are fools, unless like they're really screwed, like they're screwing themselves, living life paycheck to paycheck. Those are fools. But generally, Robert Kiyoshi's ideology on workers is that they're fools, in which I disagree with that. Now, there's this interview that he did. He just gets pissed off at the interviewer because he feel like the guy is trying to outsmart him.
It's not covered in anything. It's the only value it has is trust.
I don't really want to do this interview anymore. If you want to find out what I know or tell me what you know, then don't interview me. Okay. Just you do your own stupid show.
And Robert Kiyoshi, to be honest, I would say he's above average. I wouldn't say he's mega smart, but he is above average smart. And the thing is, the guy that's sitting across from him, his interviewer, is probably just as smart, but he just feels the need to give him shit because he tries to understand like Robert Kiyoshi, but Robert Kiyoshi doesn't like being understood. Like, oh, what? You're being smart. He would ask questions like, so did you read my book? And the guy would be like, yeah. And then Robert, like a few back and forths, and then Robert Kiyoshi, I don't want to do this interview anymore. Yeah, you're being too smart. You're insulting my intelligence. The whole debacle, and it just made the interview awkward. And then the guy just tries to let him have his way. Like, all right, you're senile. Fuck it, I'll let you be the bigger man. All right, I'm stupid. Sorry, Mr. Kiyoshi. Can you tell me what you mean? And then Robert Kiyoshi just give him these simplistic 1 word or 2 words answers, like debt is how you make money, debt don't work, debt, and like that's a sad thing about being a lot of people. That affects a lot of rich successful people, is that when they have success for too long, they just become simple-minded.
Why would you save money when they're printing money?
Everybody's printing money now.
Why would you save money when they're printing money?
I know you don't save money. You're building businesses.
Why would you save money when they're printing money?
Because you didn't, I don't know.
Because that's what you've been told to do.
Of course.
So question that. You see, if you cannot think, I cannot help you.
That is what Robert Kiyoshi is. He just turned simple-minded because he thinks everyone around him is basically inferior to him if they're not as rich or as successful as him, financially speaking. And which is why that it made this interview so awkward, because Robert Kiyoshi, he just doesn't want to explain anything. And that's the thing. When you want to teach someone, you have to explain the process of how things work. Like, for example, if I were to teach you how to drive, right? Robert Kiyoshi, like the way Robert Kiyoshi is trying to teach someone about his methodology on finance, right? He just gives one word response. Like, I'll teach you how to drive. Okay, here's the thing. Get in your car, put it in drive, and drive. Do you learn how to drive just from that? No, it's because it's skipping a lot of process. You gotta go in, you gotta stick your key in, twist it, make it ignite, and put your foot on the brake, put on drive, whole debacle. But Robert Kiyoshi, he just gives a one-word response and expects you to understand his entire mind. Maybe because he knows that he's so simple-minded, he just thought, I think you should be able to understand me because I'm simple-minded. Maybe that's what he was thinking. Who knows? But as far as I could see it, that's probably not the case, and he's just being an asshole. Now, as much as I like to shit on him, he's not wrong about a lot of things. He does relish about the time about his own father with a PhD. His father believed that if he has a PhD, he would be carried throughout the rest of his life just because he has a PhD. And Robert called his father lazy because his father stopped worrying about his future after getting a PhD. And then at the end of the day, his father did not get a job for a while. I didn't know too much about the story of his father, but simply said Robert Kiyoshi doesn't like the ideology his father had about just having one thing and relying on one thing. And also another thing that's not wrong that Robert talks about is the idea of debt. Debt is just a way for you to accrue wealth. It's really easy to manage, generally speaking, assuming it's not like you don't have any tough customers. But the idea of debt is that you accrue wealth over time, and then it will snowball into a bigger wealth. But the thing is, no one's gonna randomly owe you money. And the issue with this interview and how he is when he explained crap, he doesn't talk about the process. He just talks about debt and owing money. Like, no shit. If you have a bunch of people that owe you money and they're forced to pay you plus interest, of course you're gonna make money. No shit. But he doesn't explain the process. He just goes onto his whiteboard or his chalkboard and he just writes the whole diagram of how his debt methodology works, and then he doesn't really explain much afterwards. He doesn't explain the process. There's no step to step or anything. He doesn't give any examples. He just says this, and then he expects you to make millions off of it. Like, the thing is, he wants good for people, but his ego doesn't appreciate the guy's working infrastructure. He's a douchebag, simply said. Like, if you're working and you're poor, he's gonna be an asshole to you. But if you're rich and cool, I mean, if you're rich, like, he's gonna be cool with you, kind of like with Donald Trump. They're buddies because they wrote a book together. And even Donald Trump said he was kind of pushy about writing the book because, like, Robert is a millionaire. Donald Trump is a billionaire. The amount of work a millionaire and billionaire has is, I'm pretty sure, is vastly different. There's more problems to worry about if you're a billionaire, but Robert Kiyoshi has more free time, and I think Donald Trump was just terrified of working with him afterwards. Overall, if you want to be financially successful, yeah, this methodology works if you can have some way to find someone that is willing to owe you money. I mean, yeah, this idea works, but as far as I know, there's very little methods to using debt to your advantage, and I guess Robert Kiyoshi will not be able to explain that. You're just gonna have to figure that out on your own. Overall, that's the end of this video. Subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See ya.